We were 19th in the country. Jennifer Granholm's first number, we were 27th. Snyder's first year, we were 35th. Whitmer's first year, we were 38th. And we keep dropping. I've worked closely with all three of those governors. Three of the smartest people I've ever met, hardest working people I've ever met, and yet it kept going down. And I thought to myself, is the problem with the three of them, or is there a problem with the system? And if there's a problem with the system, I better know, because I don't need to be in a system, right, that can't succeed. And so, is it the partisan turmoil? And this is what I'm going to tell you. Our problem has not been with our elected officials. Our problem has been with the structure. So in 2010, 2011, the schools in Michigan were all graded A to F. And then in 2014, the legislature repealed A to F. Every time Republicans and Democrats flipped, they changed the rules. In 2012, we said, we got a new one. We're going to grade every school in the state, top to bottom. Then in 2016, they changed that and they repealed top to bottom. Then in 2015, we said we're going to color. We're going to grade every school green, yellow, and red. But then in 2017, they repealed the color standing. I'm not making this up. 2019, they said, we're readopting A to F. But that's okay. 2023, they repealed A to F. 2021, they said, we're going to retain third graders who can't read at grade level. That's okay. 2023, they repealed the third grade standard. You are a teacher in a classroom. You are a principal or a superintendent. How do you operate in this system? Because the problem is, with this closely divided legislature, this stuff keeps changing back and forth. There's no central vision that says, here's what we're going to do for the kids. And so this chaos became a national embarrassment. And here's the worst part. That isn't even the worst part. They kept changing all this stuff, but even when they graded them, there was no accountability. I have been spending days with superintendents and principals. And I said, for all these A to F grades, the red, green, yellow grades, the top to bottom grades, was there ever a time that a principal or a superintendent got fired because of their poor assessments? Nobody can remember one. They're scrambling around changing textbooks and curriculums, but it didn't matter because the poor performing leaders weren't held accountable anyway. The legislators didn't care about that. The talking points were about passing the new standards. Do we have good people trapped in a bad system? And so the other talking point was charters. Charters were going to solve the problem because these kids are trapped in these schools. They don't have a choice. We had 150 charters in 1999. They repealed the cap in 2011, went to 300. Now we have 368 charters. But the overall reading level hasn't improved because here's what happens. And I actually believe in choice. I believe charter school options. We have very high-performing charters in Detroit. We have some really bad charters in Detroit. We have very high-performing traditionals in Detroit and some very bad traditionals in Detroit. And it turns out when you look on average, their scores almost exactly the same because you can put in a different structure, but if you put them in the same system where they're changing the standards every 2 years and nobody's holding anybody accountable, it doesn't matter what your school structure is. Your system's screwed up. And if you don't think this is a crisis, did you see what just happened on May 6th? School bond issues pass across America, no problem, 75%. Pass at 75% in Michigan, but they've been declining. But for the first time ever on May 6th, the majority of school bond issues in the state of Michigan, the voters voted down. And they voted them down all across the state. The people of Michigan are losing confidence in what's happening in the schools. Tell me we're not eroding our future. And so, okay, maybe they didn't see it coming. The decline's predictable, right? This is Ed Trust Midwest, great policy group. 10 years ago this month, May 19th, you know what they wrote? If we stay our course, we're going to be 44th in fourth grade level by 2030. Okay, it turned out they got it in 2025. But this was something everybody saw coming. You could see what was happening, and instead of addressing it, they keep passing these damn bills in Lansing that give them something to talk about, don't change anything. And so I look to the Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu and says, if you don't change direction, you may end up where you're heading, right? And for the last 10 years, we kept walking in the direction we were heading. And is it changing today? Well, here's what happened last month. The House Republicans voted to drop Algebra 2 from the required high school curriculum. Straight line vote in the Michigan House. Now, the interesting thing is there's actually merit to this, and I'll show you why in a minute. But how did we get to a system where the legislature is voting class by class on a partisan basis what to do. The problem is with the system. And I actually think, as I'll show you, this is something that needs to be done, but it can't be done by legislators acting one bill at a time. But you had actually good-meaning Republicans who were trapped in a system. This is the only way they knew what to do. So, okay, same thing I look at. Maybe it's problems everywhere. Other states having this problem? Well, let's look around us. Indiana, in the last 10 years, have gone in fourth grade reading from 14th to 6th. Mississippi's been remarkable, 49th to 9th. Ohio, 19th to 14th. Louisiana's gone from 47th to 15th. Idaho's gone from 32 to 19th. This is not happening everywhere. This is happening in a system that is designed to fail, and nobody's doing anything about it. But when you look at these states, what they have in common, some of them are doing science and reading, some of them do orthotics, but you know what they all have in common? They all have consistent long-term plans that don't change from year, and they let the teachers teach and the students learn under the same program. So let me talk to you for a minute about how it would go for schools, because you can't possibly do it, right? You can't get these folks together. But in Detroit, we actually did it. In 2017, there was a group of folks who came together and they said, look, we got 130,000 school-aged children. We have 100 DPS traditional schools, 100 charter schools, and the lowest third grade reading in the United States. Parents are overwhelmed. They got 200 choices. They have no idea which school is good or bad. We need to pull them together and have a document that informs parents. And we all vote that the mayor should do it. And they did. They said, mayor should bring in the charters and the traditionals and the teachers union and get them all to agree to a standard that we'll pass out. They said, yeah, right. Everybody knows teachers don't want accountability, right? Charters don't want accountability. The principals don't want accountability. And they want me to put it in a book that we pass out to everybody. And so, you think you get them to come together? I sat with each of them. And here's the interesting thing. When you get away from the politicians, they actually want to teach children. And they came together, Dr. Vitti, the charters, and David Hecker, the president of the Michigan Teachers, said, we're all coming in. And they did in 6 months what the legislature hadn't been able to do in 10 years. They all agreed to a single A, B, C, D, F score that would apply to every single one of them. The law didn't require it. They voluntarily signed up for accountability, and I'll show you why. They used the Denver model, and what Denver does is instead of just looking at the test scores, they look at your improvement. That is, if you take kids at the 5% level and get them to the 13% level, you are doing a hell of a job teaching, right? You should be graded for that. And so they weight 50% improvement. And so why it matters is, if you get a school that starts at year 1 at 5% proficiency, and year 2 you go to 12%, and year 3 you go to 18%, you are a hell of an educator. Under a traditional system, you'd get an F because you were below 20%. But because we rate improvement, you would get a B because you should get a B. You're doing the right thing and scoring the right way. But if you're in a school that starts at 18 and you go down to 15, now you're losing on proficiency and improvement, you get an F. And David Hecker, the president of Teachers Union, looked at this and he said, I don't want to be accountable for how far behind our kids are when they start school in Detroit. I want to be accountable for how fast we teach them. You sign me up for improving the kids' education, and we'll do it. And so the next year, we created the book. We did the unthinkable, the Detroit Parents' Guide to Schools. All 200 traditional and charter schools are in here, and we featured their language programs and their arts programs, every single thing. In year 1, it was the book. Year 2, they were going to get the A to F. And we put these things in barbershops and hair salons and coffee shops and on the internet all over the city. People were like, oh my God, I can see my choices. Parents could make informed decisions. I went then and said, all right. And all of the schools were saying, I measured on improvement. They're working like mad to improve the scores. And year 2, we're going to press. 2019, I'm waiting for the grades. The grades are up at the State Board of Education. Can't be a problem. They can measure scores, right? And we're waiting. State Superintendent Office doesn't send it. And then I go up to see the superintendent, this guy Rice. And he says, you don't understand. We're in a toxic fight over A to F up here in Lansing. The Democrats on the Board of Ed don't want it. The Republicans in the legislature do. And I said, I don't care about your fight. This is a parent's guide, for Christ's sake. We're just passing this out so our parents can make an informed decision. And he said, if you succeed on this, you're going to help them in their effort to grade the rest of the people. And the state superintendent, I showed in this book, I said, don't you think this is great? Wouldn't give us this because he didn't want anybody passing out something with accountability. So how do we turn this around? Here's what I do. We need $4.5 billion over 5 years, and we can get there right now. Revenue growth should produce about $600 million a year. We're going to have to cut 2% for the rest of the budget each year for 5 years. This is what I do. If this is our priority, we can do it. But we can put $4.5 million in. But $4.5 million without accountability does nothing. And this is what I'm going to be proposing. First thing, we create a Marshall Plan for reading. We've seen from these other states what it's done, and the state's taken some good steps. They've added the science of reading and dyslexia. I don't want to make it sound like they haven't done anything, because the legislature has. But we'll have a group that will do all of the things. I've spent lots of time with superintendents with small group learning and literacy. We'll put the money into that Marshall Plan. Second, we are going to rebuild Michigan's decimated high school CTE program. And if you want to write a book on how a bad system kills the aspirations of Michigan residents, we did it here. We passed something in 2006 that went into effect in 2011 called the Merit Curriculum, where we mandated more classes in science, language, than any place else. Sounded great, right? We were going to have the best prepared kids for college, and we put it in effect. But here was the problem. The way the schools were set up, you spent a half a day at your base school and a half a day at your CTE program for electrical work or HVAC or anything else. When they put all these mandates in, you didn't have time to go to the other school, right? People know this, right? And so 41% of our school districts are now CTE deserts. You know what radical said 41% are CTE deserts? The State Board of Education this year, the people in charge of the schools, everybody knows this. But we saw this happen because when they did it and these schools cut back, you had, interestingly, a handful of districts that thought it was so important that they actually passed local millages and they built CTE centers and they squeezed them in at a third of a day. And then they said to the other schools in the surrounding districts, we'll take your kids, but you got to give us half of your foundation grant every time the kid comes into your school. And the guidance counselors at those other schools, oddly enough, didn't encourage people to leave and cut the base budget. And then they have another rule, that maybe you've got programs offered at a community college or college. And so dual enrollment, right? In the rest of America, dual enrollment's a big thing. You know what the law in Michigan says? If your high school student dual enrolls at a college, the tuition comes out of the high school's budget. We did this to ourselves. Again, the guidance counselor said, you don't really need that dual enrollment thing, right? You're cutting into teachers here. We designed a system that nobody has fixed. And so what I want to do is I want to double the CTE funding. Okay, Jeff Donofrio sitting over here somewhere did a report. We need 47,000 positions in skilled trades by 2021, 2028. Everybody here knows this. Why are we not, as a state, saying we're going to fix it? And yet, if you look at what's happening around the country, Indiana, $168 million, Pennsylvania, $105 million, Michigan's only at $40 million. We don't have skilled trades because our people aren't talented enough. We have no skilled trades because our system is keeping them away from good life choices. Do you see what's bothering me? All right? And then, if you want to actually get guidance about your career choices, we have said to you basically, you're going to college, God bless you, we're behind you. You want to do anything else? The average school in America has one counselor for 250. Michigan, 1 for 600, second lowest. You have nobody there. And so when you go to the outstate areas of the state, as I'm doing every day, and these kids in their 20s and 30s, they are so angry about their high school experience. And Democrats say, why do the people with high school degrees not like Democrats anymore? I said, look at what you've done. Go talk to these folks. You've taken away career options for anybody who hasn't decided college is their only choice. The problem is with the system. And so we need to build an educator-driven plan, and we're going to have the superintendents write it just like we did here. It might not be the same way Detroit was, but we need to have a grading system. And then, this is the part that's going to piss people off, but this is what I believe. There's got to be consequences. If we're going to put $4.5 billion more into our schools, the people running the schools need to have some skin in the game. And so here's what I'd say. First year at your school, if you're failing, you give us an improvement plan. We'll give you help. Year 2 of your failing, you as a principal are on last chance. I will give you more help. But in the 3rd year, you're still failing as a principal in your team, you're fired. Okay? If you were in business and your business decline 3 years in a row, you either get rid of the leader or you go out of business. Only in public education can the principal fail year after year and you send the next group of kids. I know it sounds harsh, but if you're going to put $4.5 billion in, let's hold them accountable. And in year 4, when they change, if they don't fix it, in year 5, fire the superintendent. Okay? Let's hold the people accountable for doing this. Now, it is very simple. Are we protecting the 6 and 7 and 8 and 9-year-olds studying for the future, or are we protecting the adults in the system? So here's the principles. I want to increase the school budget without raising taxes. I want to fund early rating. I want to rebuild the CTE program. And I want to hold principals and superintendents accountable. Now look at that list and tell me, which thing would Republicans or Democrats disagree with? There's nothing partisan about this. This is something both sides could agree on. And this is what I want to do. I don't want to spin the roulette table and try to win 8 straight or 4 straight trifectas. I want to build a consensus in the state that this is what our education system looks like, so it doesn't matter if a Republican or Democrat wins the next time, because we've all committed to what our education program is going to be for our kids.